samurai discipline was never built on motivation. It was built on a mind trained to act before emotion could decide. Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's legendary swordsman and author of the Book of Five Rings, understood something that warriors could not afford to forget. A sword cannot become steady when the battle begins. The mind cannot suddenly become disciplined when fear arrives. Both must be shaped long before the decisive moment. This is the deeper difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation waits for a feeling. Discipline rests upon a decision already made. And in the world of the samurai, that decision was not merely personal. It was tied to duty, identity, training, honor, and the acceptance of uncertainty. The warrior did not need to ask, "Do I feel ready?" He had already entered the path. To understand samurai discipline, we must first leave behind the modern idea of motivation. Motivation rises and falls. It can be powerful one morning and completely absent the next. But the warrior's world demanded something more enduring. The samurai belonged to a social and military order. His position carried obligations. His conduct reflected not only upon himself, but upon his household, his lord, and his name. This does not mean every samurai lived according to one perfect code. History was far more complicated. The ideal of Bushido itself developed gradually and took different forms across Japanese history. During the long peace of the Tokugawa era, the warrior ideal became increasingly formalized. Fidelity to one's lord and personal honor became central elements of the idealized warrior ethic. The important point is this: the samurai ideal placed action inside a larger structure of obligation. A man did not have to invent his purpose every morning. The path had already been defined. His task was to walk it. This created a very different relationship with emotion. Fear could appear. Doubt could appear. Fatigue could appear. But none of these feelings automatically had the authority to determine what came next. That is the first secret of samurai discipline. Discipline does not mean the absence of emotion. It means emotion does not become the final authority. A warrior could feel fear and still remain within his role. He could experience uncertainty and still continue along the path. The strength was not in becoming emotionless. It was in refusing to let every emotion become a command. That distinction is easy to miss, but it changes everything. Bushido is often presented as though it were a single ancient rulebook, followed identically by every samurai. That picture is too simple. The historical reality was more complicated. The warrior tradition developed over centuries. Its ideals were shaped by military culture, Confucian thought, Buddhist traditions, social hierarchy, and changing political conditions. The formalized ideal of Bushido became especially prominent during the Tokugawa period. In that world, loyalty and honor were not merely abstract virtues. They belonged to a larger social order. This matters because discipline becomes powerful when action is connected to identity. Consider the difference. One person says, "I want to become stronger." Another says, "This is the way I have chosen to walk." The first statement depends upon desire. The second depends upon identity. Desire can disappear. Identity has deeper roots. For the samurai ideal, duty was not simply something to accomplish. It was something to embody. The warrior was expected to carry himself according to the position he occupied. His clothing, manners, speech training, relationships, and conduct all belong to a larger conception of what it meant to be a warrior. The discipline was therefore woven into life itself. It was not reserved for moments of inspiration. This is why the warrior ideal could be stronger than motivation. Motivation says, "I want to." Duty says, "I must." And there is another difference. Motivation asks whether the heart agrees. Duty asks whether the path has already been chosen. This does not make duty morally perfect. History contains loyalty that was noble. It also contains loyalty that could become destructive. The point is not to romanticize obedience. The point is to understand the psychological structure. When a person sees an action as part of who they are, they require less emotional persuasion to perform it. The action becomes an expression of identity. The warrior does not continually negotiate with himself. He has already answered the question of who he is. Few figures embody this principle more clearly than Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's legendary swordsman and author of the Book of Five Rings. Musashi was not simply interested in winning individual encounters. His writings describe a broader way, a way of strategy, a way of observation, a way of training, a way of living through disciplined perception. His language repeatedly returns to practice, study, timing, posture, awareness, and mastery. The deeper lesson is easy to misunderstand. Musashi did not present mastery as a sudden explosion of motivation. Mastery was cultivated through repetition and understanding. The warrior studies the way until what once required conscious effort becomes deeply embodied. This is why preparation matters more than inspiration. A sword master does not wait until danger arrives to learn how to hold a sword. A musician does not wait until the performance to discover the instrument. And a warrior does not wait until fear arrives to construct courage. The decisive moment reveals what has already been cultivated. This is one of the oldest truths hidden inside discipline. The moment of crisis does not create character. It exposes it. Musashi's philosophy therefore points toward something deeper than determination. It points toward consistency. The warrior repeatedly returns to the way. He observes. He studies. He corrects. He trains. He becomes more familiar with the demands of his path. Over time, discipline stops feeling like an external command. It becomes part of the person. That is when motivation becomes unnecessary. Not because the warrior has become superhuman, but because the action has become integrated into his nature. Imagine a quiet training hall. The floor is still. The air is cold. A wooden sword rests in the hands of a student. There is no battlefield, no enemy, no applause, only repetition. The same movement. Again, and again, and again. This kind of training contains a profound lesson. The discipline required in battle is built during moments when nothing dramatic is happening. The warrior does not know exactly when the decisive moment will arrive. Therefore, preparation cannot depend upon excitement. It must exist without excitement. This is where discipline separates itself from motivation. Motivation loves the visible moment. Discipline respects the invisible preparation. The sword is polished before it is needed. The armor is prepared before danger appears. The body is trained before strength is demanded. The mind is cultivated before fear attempts to control it. This principle belongs deeply to martial culture. The warrior prepares while the world is quiet. Then, when the world becomes violent, he does not need to become someone else. He simply reveals what training has already made familiar. There is something almost austere about this. No dramatic transformation. No sudden awakening. No heroic speech. Just repetition. Silence. Attention. Return. The old path is walked again. And again. And again. That is why discipline often looks unimpressive before it becomes powerful. It grows quietly, like the edge of a blade being refined through countless strokes. The relationship between Zen and the samurai must also be treated carefully. Zen did influence Japanese warrior culture, particularly through institutions, teachers, arts and practices associated with the warrior class. But Zen was not simply a military philosophy. It was a Buddhist tradition with its own religious aims and history. Its influence on warrior culture should therefore not be reduced to a formula such as Zen made samurai fearless. That would be too shallow. The deeper connection lies in the question of the mind. A mind caught completely in fear cannot see clearly. A mind trapped in attachment cannot respond freely. A mind constantly calculating its own safety becomes divided. Zen repeatedly examines the restless activity of the mind. Thought arises. Emotion arises. Attachment arises. Fear arises. But the mind does not have to become imprisoned by every movement within it. For a warrior, this distinction could be vital. The sword demands presence. The moment demands attention. Hesitation can become its own kind of danger. This does not mean the samurai simply stopped thinking. Nor does it mean Zen magically removed fear. It means the ideal of a clear and undivided mind offered a powerful language for understanding action. The warrior does not need to destroy every thought. He needs to stop being dominated by thought. He does not need to eliminate every emotion. He needs to remain capable of seeing through emotion. This is where Zen and martial discipline meet. Not in aggression, not in violence, but in clarity. The still mind is not empty because nothing exists within it. It is still because nothing possesses it completely. Fear can be present without becoming the master. Doubt can be present without becoming the master. Desire can be present without becoming the master. This is a much deeper form of discipline than simply forcing yourself to continue. It is the discipline of not being pulled apart from within. There is another reason samurai discipline could become so severe. The warrior tradition had to confront death directly. A warrior could not build his entire identity around the assumption that life would always remain safe. Death was not an abstract philosophical idea. For warriors, it belonged to the reality of their profession. This produced a distinctive relationship with mortality. The famous warrior ideal often emphasized readiness for death. But this must not be romanticized. The historical samurai world was not a world of noble warriors calmly embracing death at every moment. Human beings remained human. They feared. They desired. They resisted. They betrayed. They survived. They suffered. The ideal was different from the reality, and the ideal itself changed across history. Yet the philosophical significance remains. If death is accepted as part of existence, then fear loses some of its power to dictate every decision. The warrior who has contemplated mortality does not necessarily become reckless. He may become more deliberate, more serious, more present. The awareness of impermanence strips away certain illusions. There is no promise that the next moment will arrive. There is no guarantee that the path will remain comfortable. There is no certainty that effort will produce the desired outcome. And yet, the path continues. This is where samurai discipline reaches its deepest point. Discipline is simply the ability to force yourself forward. It is the ability to remain faithful to a chosen path, while knowing that the outcome cannot be controlled completely. That requires something stronger than motivation. It requires acceptance. Now the difference becomes clear. Motivation is emotional fuel. Discipline is structural commitment. Motivation says, "I feel ready." Discipline says, "I have prepared." Motivation says, "I want to." Discipline says, "This is my way." Motivation depends upon emotional weather. Discipline is built before the weather changes. This is why the samurai ideal offers such a severe lesson. The warrior did not build his character at the edge of battle. He built it in the quiet hours, in training, in ritual, in repetition, in study, in duty, in silence, in the gradual acceptance of what could not be controlled. The blade became sharp long before it met another blade. The body became familiar with movement long before danger arrived. The mind was shaped long before fear demanded an answer. This is the hidden architecture of discipline. It is not intensity. It is continuity. It is not emotional excitement. It is commitment repeated until the commitment becomes part of the self. And perhaps this is why the old warrior traditions remain so striking. They did not ask the human being to become permanently inspired. They understood something more realistic. Inspiration comes and goes. Mood changes. Confidence disappears. Fear returns. The path remains. The samurai ideal was never simply about becoming harder. It was about becoming less divided. Less divided between intention and action. Less divided between duty and desire. Less divided between fear and responsibility. The sword could tremble. The heart could tremble. The world could become uncertain. But the path had already been chosen. That is the difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation asks whether you feel like walking. Discipline remembers why you entered the path. And perhaps that is the quiet lesson hidden inside the old samurai tradition. You do not become disciplined when you finally feel strong. You become disciplined when strength is no longer required to decide what comes next. The warrior sits in silence. The sword rests beside him. Nothing dramatic is happening. There is no battle. No applause. No audience. Only the path. And the person who has chosen to remain upon it. So ask yourself, when motivation disappears, what remains of the person you have chosen to become?